Do I know if I will watch the world be taken over by robots? No. There's so much uncertainty. And the way that I'm preparing myself is by trying to ground, trying to expand my nervous system, trying to make sure I have the resources to care for myself. Welcome to Money Musings, a podcast that breaks down money, investing, and wealth with zero BS and unapologetic irreverence. I'm your host and money co-conspirator, Stephanie Zenos. Let's get into it. We are entering a new money paradigm. And instead of thinking that money is going to matter less, I think money is actually going to matter more than ever these next few years. So recently, people have been reaching out to me about a quote that Elon made in an interview. He said, "Don't worry about squirreling money away for retirement in 10 or 20 years. It won't matter." Now, first of all, I am not Elon. I do not speak for Elon, but here's what I think he meant by that. My interpretation was that this was in the context of AI and AI developing very quickly. So Elon was saying that AI soon is going to be smarter than human intelligence, and that will be a point called singularity. In addition to that, robotics is getting better and better, such that when we combine robotics and AI, we're going to have robots that can do basically anything we can do. They will be smarter than us, faster than they will be able to use their bodies physically, like us. So, if your job is just thinking, that's probably at higher risk than if your job is doing something physically with your body and thinking. But either way, he was making the point that eventually these robots are going to have more intelligence and be able to do our jobs. And then at that point, goods and services would become so cheap that it's essentially irrelevant how much things cost, and that we're not going to need money or a lot of money because we will have things for so cheap. Now, in the meantime, we're here on our planet Earth, and most of us are working for money using our minds or our bodies or a combination of both. Elon said, we won't just have basic income, we're going to have universal abundance, essentially, and that is predicated on the fact that goods and services would be so cheap because AI would be performing them. Now, if AI is performing all of those jobs, then essentially we won't be having jobs. So we will be home, hanging out, gardening, cooking, chilling with our friends. And this obviously will be a big change for many, many people. We will essentially all get retired and on different timelines. So I wanted to talk about this because people were like, wait, is this relevant? Should I actually not be saving money? Is money going to become completely useless? What about all these investments that I made? What about all of these things that I've been working towards all of these years? I can understand why that would be a little bit alarming. And it does make sense to kind of assess it. But there are a few things that I think make sense to think about. As I said, I think it'll actually be more important what you do with your money these next 5 years or so than any other time in your life. And the reason why is it's not going to happen overnight that suddenly robots take all the jobs. There will be certain jobs that are eliminated first and then other jobs that are eliminated later. And we are going to need savings and we're going to need access to money in the shorter term so that we can essentially be ready for this movement when it happens. Those of us who have more resources will probably have an easier time transitioning into this new normal. This is not going to be an easy time if that really happens. There's going to be a lot of tumultuous behavior and things happening. People are going to be fighting for power. So anytime a really large change like that happens in the world, a huge part of staying sane is actually just keeping yourself grounded, keeping yourself amongst your community, and taking care of your actual physical and mental health. So that's one of the reasons why I've been saying the most important thing we can do in this next phase is learn how to manage our nervous system and be in our body, stay calm during times of change and times of transition and times of mass uncertainty. Now, if that sounds a little scary, yeah, I can also understand it being a little scary. I would say that I am an optimist and I believe that the outcome will be positive. And I would also say that for people who care about humanity and who care about the earth and who care about the animals on the earth, right? The people who actually care about these things, you have an opportunity these next 5 years. And I think you should be extra careful with your money and what you do with it so that you will be best prepared to meet this transition, whether that means spending your money on your mental health, whether that means spending your money on land, whether that means spending your money on the people in your life to support them through this transition, whatever it means, I do think the more money you have, the better off you will be as we enter this transition. I don't want to be alarmist, but I do believe that Elon is probably right. Now, he might not be right about the timeline. Maybe this won't happen super quickly. I know Elon has said something like in a couple of years, maybe 3 it was, that robots will be doing surgery more often than humans, and no one will want a human doing their surgery. I think that's an interesting idea, because if robots can share intelligence and share experience from every surgery they've ever done, then yeah, maybe I would want a robot who had done millions of surgeries versus a human who could only do like maybe a couple thousand surgeries. It is a really interesting thing to think about, but I do think that that is the direction that we are headed with AI. There have been so many documentaries and important podcasts coming out lately, and I know I have been thinking about the future of humanity and AI a lot, and also talking with people a lot about it. And I'll go back to what I said before. I think my best advice is like, be really careful with your money in these next few years. Spend it strategically on your mental and physical health and investing in yourself and your skills, especially skills that you don't think that AI will be able to replicate very quickly. Human skills. Let's do another episode on that because that's interesting. I think in 5 years, if we pretend that AI does take all of the jobs, those of us who have significant resources, whether that's money or skills or land or other things like that, are probably going to have an easier transition, or will have more resources to help ourselves have an easier transition than those of us without. I do think it's going to be really dynamic. And I do think that for a lot of people, it's going to be scary. And I do think that a lot of people might have a very hard time in this transition. I think it will end for the greater good. And I do hope that basic goods and services will be available to everyone for a very reasonable cost, so that all humans can at least have their basic needs met, because I think that is a fundamental right. But it is interesting to kind of think about the ways that it could go. And it is interesting to think about how I might change my behavior from what I've been doing previously. Now, for me, I've been investing for a really long time, since I was 18. I have plenty of money in retirement accounts, which Elon said will be irrelevant. And I have plenty of money in brokerage accounts, which are more accessible and are not saved for retirement or made specifically for retirement. Now, entering a period like this with this volatility and uncertainty, I would want less and less of my money under the watchful eye of the government, meaning in a government-sponsored retirement account. The government created retirement accounts to help people save, and they have tax advantages. But if you have money sitting in a traditional retirement account, IRS and the government is keeping their eye on that money because they want their taxes, they want their cut, and you haven't paid taxes on that yet. So for me, I would want less of my money in accounts like this as time goes forward and things get dynamic, because I believe that the tax code is written in pencil. And so there is a risk that the government will change the laws around accounts like that and force you maybe to pay taxes sooner. So for me, I would be prioritizing brokerage accounts or Roth accounts where I can at least take out the principal without penalties or fees, and also keeping more money on hand, like in savings. So for me, it's really about how to position myself the best for if something like this happens with AI and with jobs and with our society and all of that change. The most important thing would be the access to money. Can you access your money? And can you access it easily without penalties and fees? Is that going to be money from real estate? Like selling real estate might be difficult. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, like I did just buy a house, but it does kind of tie me to a place and limit my flexibility. So that could be a risk in the future if things get really volatile. However, it will be really nice to have a house and to own property and be like, okay, well, this is mine, at least if nothing goes awry with that. So that's the way that I'm kind of thinking about it. And so for myself, I would be thinking about having more money in savings, having more money in brokerage accounts, which is more accessible than retirement accounts. And then if I was putting money in retirement accounts, probably choosing Roth over traditional, or at least I know I can take out the principal without penalties or fees because it's already been taxed. So that's one way I would be thinking about it. Do I know what's going to happen? No. Do I know if I will watch the world be taken over by robots? No. Do I know if people in my life will be okay? No. There's so much uncertainty, truly. And the way that I'm preparing myself is by trying to ground, trying to expand my nervous system, trying to make sure I have the resources to care for myself. And yeah, ultimately that looks like investing. It looks like investing in brokerage accounts where I can get my money out. It looks like investing in myself and my human skills. It looks like talking to my family and friends about the future and trying to assess what kind of help they may need in order to get into this kind of next phase and this new change in the world. And I really suggest that you do the same. Take a look at your finances, see how things look, see what you might be able to accomplish within 5 years, and take it seriously, because I do see the world changing very dynamically, and I do think having cash on hand is going to be super important. Thanks for allowing me to be part of your money journey. If you heard something that made you think in a new way or expanded your views about money today, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave me a cute little note in the form of a review. See you next time. As always, a quick but important reminder that everything I share here is solely for the purpose of your entertainment, education, and inspiration. Nothing in this podcast should be taken as personal financial, legal, or investment advice. Everyone's financial situation is wildly different, and that's why it's so important that you do your own research and decide what's right for you.